Recently, on April 2023, India officially became the most populated nation on the planet. Obviously, you can tell that India has a gigantic population and it's growing at a significant rate. It's safe to say that India will be the most populated nation for the rest of the century, because on the other hand, the population of second most populated nation, China, is actually declining in a really rapid rate, which I've explained in this video. And it kind of looks like India would not lose its population in coming years, as the population growth rate is really steady. But some factors tell that might not be the case, and India's population might start declining in the third quarter of the century. Let's talk about it all. India is a massive country, more than 4.5 times bigger than Texas, and most of it being flat and arable land. India having this enormous population is really justifiable. This type of geography really supports big population, and over that, with the advancements in healthcare and efficient food supplies, it can be explained how India's population doubled in just 42 years. Straight from 720 million in 1981 now to almost 1.43 billion, which is projected to reach almost 1.7 billion at around 2065. And that exact point is said to be the pinnacle of the size of Indian population, because after that point the population is probably going to drop down. And the reasons for that would be really similar to these Asian nations, Japan, South Korea, and even China, which population are declining at the moment. Excluding these specific policies like the one-child policy that China had, the main reason why these East Asian nations are losing their population is simply their culture. These three Asian nations are developed, have a really good healthcare and education, and don't have much crime, making their life expectancy so high that there are more older people than the younger ones, which can be explained by these population pyramids as well. Larger older population group than the younger population, with median age being around 40s. Japan is much worse in this case. With more people in a country being old, it comes with a lot of problems. Of course, it's signs that there is not enough young and energetic workforce, but it also slows down the population growth as well, because there would not be enough younger people that would need to take care of their aged parents and grandparents, combined with limited jobs, rising cost of living and all, make it really harder for the younger population with their financial and work pressure, which develops extreme workaholism. As of now in India, there are already insane competitions for jobs and not enough pay, which is making people financially insecure, pushing the age of marriage and having kids. With all that, the younger population hesitate to have more kids, as they see having more kids as a dent on their financial security, which is pretty hard to achieve in the first place. And having less kids obviously lead to a decline in the fertility rate. It's said that the fertility rate of 2.1% is needed for a country to make its population stable. This simply means 2 children would replace 2 parents. For all these nations, the fertility rate is severely below the replacement rate. In fact, South Korea is the nation with the lowest fertility rate out of any nation on the planet, with just 0.8, which is extremely low for a country, and it'll make South Korea shrink super fast in population. Getting back to India, their fertility rate in 1950 used to be almost 6, meaning Indian women in average used to have 6 kids around 50s. But as the time went by, India started its transition from an agrarian society to a liberalized industry and service-based country. And since then, the fertility rate has always dropped down, and as of now, it's an all-time low at just 2, which just falls off the replacement rate. With this, their population growth rate is falling as well. With this, the UN has projected the fertility rate to drop down to as low as 1.7 in around 2080, comparable to the European nations like Slovenia and Slovakia right now, which are struggling to grow their population. But there are some more things to tell that the fertility rate of India might drop even lower than 1.7 in 2080. So India is a developing nation. Their GDP graph, literacy rate, life expectancy all are going up and will keep going up as the years go by. More Indians keep getting educated, more Indians keep living longer. And then the effects will come to light. The huge young workforce that India is heavily leveraging right now to develop its economy will age and be old, and will be the major part of Indian population at that time, outnumbering the younger ones. And that will be the exact situation which will make India really similar to these shrinking Asian nations right now. In fact, the way India is aging, it's being really similar to that of Japan, but the time difference is 50 years. This was the population pyramid of India in 2003, and this was the population pyramid of Japan in 1953. And it's the population pyramid of India right now in 2023, and this right here is the population pyramid of Japan in 1973. Have a look at this time lapse of 100 years with predictions for future as well, showing Japan 50 years forward, and you can see how both look exactly similar. These exact things tell us that India will age just like Japan. You can tell that there are a lot of differences on how India and Japan operate, but they've got a lot of similarities to override the differences. First of all, let's go on with the working culture in both countries. Japanese people on average work for around 1,920 hours annually, and although Japan is known as one of the nations with longer work hours, it is still surprisingly short even if we compare it to Portugal or Chile. For Indians though, average annual working hours are more than 2,200 hours, which is on average around 300 hours more than Japan's. This simply means that Indian workforce is working too much. And these working hours are only increasing as India is still on the phase of transition from agrarian to industry and service-based economy. And that'll directly affect the birth rate as the young couples would be too fatigued to have kids, which we've already discussed. That will certainly affect on how Indian families will operate as well. The financial aspect will be the main factor that will affect the number of children a family will have and hence affecting the population growth. But the fertility rate isn't the only thing that will be affected by the large number of old retired people in a country. It directly affects on how the government allocates its finances as well. The Japanese government allocates about a third of its entire budget on social security funds. But as India gets to the position that Japan is in right now, Indian government might need to allocate a bigger part of its budget on social securities for the older people than Japan is spending as of now, because of the sheer size of the Indian population that is about to age. This will not be good for Indian economy at all, as there will be a smaller younger population to run the economy. The government tax base and income will not be enough, forcing the Indian government to borrow debt, demoting the financial security in the nation, demoting the birth rate and population growth even more. But this type of population decline can be solved with in-migration. Many Western nations are solving the exact problem with that. But as of now, India's attitude towards welcoming immigrants isn't that well. They seem to be a little repellent of the in-migration into their country. But things might change in coming years that might be different. It all depends on how India sees this decline in the fertility rate, population growth, and the overall situation that might be coming. Maybe the insane population decline would start sooner or super late. Time will tell. But they need to take heavy notes from Japan though, because the way this Indian population is aging, it will inevitably face the same problem that Japan is facing right now. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Tell me what you think about this in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later.